Money is the equivalent of energy, so you can buy energy with your cash. You want to change the world, we don't have to physically go out and physically change the world first. First, we have to change our belief about the world, our belief of who we are in the world. We're not victims. I had tenure at the university. I walked out of the university and said, look, I can't keep my integrity, and at the same time teach something I know was patently wrong.
This channel exists for one reason, to help you dismantle the self-doubt that's been running the show in your subconscious, so you can finally believe you're capable of the life you actually want. Today we're diving deep with the incredible Bruce Lipton, someone whose work has helped millions shift how they see themselves, starting right now.
The science that says there are two minds that are operating at the same time. One is called the conscious mind and one is called the subconscious mind. I say, what's the difference? The conscious mind is where you are as a spirit, an entity, a unique identity. You are in that conscious mind and perceiving the world. I say, what about the subconscious mind? It's not a creative mind. The subconscious mind is habits. Things that you've learned and you experienced in your life, and they become habits. So the subconscious mind is not thinking, creating. It's subconscious mind, push the button, play the behavior. So here's the point. When we are in our conscious mind, we are connecting our spirituality to the biology and the physical planet that we're in. And that is the creative mind. That's the one you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I wish I had this and I desire that, and these are the things I want. And then you go out and start the day, and then guess what? 95% of the day, you are not operating from the conscious mind. Science has recognized 95% of the day, because we are thinking 95% of the day, our behavior is now controlled by the subconscious mind. I go, okay, so what's the difference? And the final conclusion of this is the conscious mind with your creativity has your wishes and your desires. The subconscious mind was programmed by other people, your mother, your father, your siblings, and your community. So what is the difference? You wake up with a wish and a desire of what you want, and then the rest of the day, you play the programs that you got from other people that don't answer your wishes and don't support your desires, and all you see is the consequence of it and go, oh my God, why is it not working? And the answer is because you don't see, because remember the name is subconscious, below conscious. So when that behavior is playing, psychologists will tell us 70% or more of the programs in the subconscious are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting behaviors. So the simple reality is this. We have great wishes and desires, and yet our life is not controlled by that. Our life is controlled by the programming, and that programming is the disempowering program. So all you see is the consequence of the invisible subconscious, which will sabotage all the desires and wishes you have. And then to conclude that, what if you just didn't default to the subconscious? What if you just stayed in the conscious mind? That's called being mindful. And why is it relevant? Because when you stay conscious, keep your mind present, you are the creator of your life. And when people are in mindfulness, they manifest their wishes, their desires, and their happiness. So for all of us, it's sort of a wake-up call. You think you're running your life with your wishes and desires. It's an illusion. You're really running your life with your programs acquired from other people. Jesus told his followers, all the miracles that I can do, you can do them, but even better than I can, and you don't believe it. And that was the whole damn thing in a nutshell. If you don't believe it, you can't do it. And I say, well, where's belief come from? Mind. I say, and then what if you've been programmed you can't do it? And I say, then you'll never be able to do it. And this is the problem. And so we talked about way number one. You want to change it? Mm-hmm. Hypnosis, because that's the original way things went in the first place. And that what you said was true. Even you just say, I feel amazing, I feel amazing. If you repeat that, the mind will all of a sudden change how you feel. That's how it does it, okay? So I say, number one, self-hypnosis. Number two, After age 7, you still learn how to do new things that become habits. Like you didn't learn how to drive a car until later than 7. But once you know how to drive a car, remember the first day you got in, it was like, oh my God, looking out the windows, checking the mirror, watching the gauges, keeping your feet on the pedals just correctly, looking, paying all these attentions like, and I say, today you've been driving for a while. You don't even think about that. You get in the car, you put the key in, and now what are you thinking about? Well, what am I going to do when I get to the store? You're not even thinking about driving. Why? It's a habit. Okay. I say, well, how'd you get that habit? Because you're older than 7. How'd you get it? I said, repetition. That's what makes a habit. Practice. You want to play an instrument? I'll hand you an instrument. Yeah, you didn't have any practice, then you're not going to be able to play it. And I say, oh, practice. I say, what is that? Repetition. That's the second way the subconscious learns. Repeating something over and over and over again, because that's called habituation, making a habit. And I love it. The new age today thing is fake it till you make it. I go, what the hell is that? I say, you're not happy. Yeah, most of us have trouble being happy. And I say, but what if every day, all day long, and you can remember, you say, I am happy. In spite of the fact that what the hell is going on, you just say, I am happy. I am happy. I am happy. I go, why? What's going on? I say, repetition. And there'll be a point where you'll repeat it to the degree that the subconscious, which learns by repetition, will put in, I am happy. I say, then what's the consequence? I say, what's the function of the mind? Take that program and manifest it. Now that it's in there, I am happy. I wake up one morning and guess what? I don't have to say I'm happy. It's automatic. I'm already happy all day long. Why? My program said that. 95% is coming from that. Habituation, repetition of the exact thing you want, not future vision, as if you have it now. We'll put it in a program. So that's first 7 years hypnosis. After 7 years, repetition, habituation is how you change it. A sticky note, people put that stuff on a mirror or someplace and they go, oh yeah, the little sticky note. And I go, that is not repetition. That's a suggestion. A repetition is a practice. You have to repeat things. You practice an instrument, you practice driving a car, you practice doing these things, and then it became real. Okay, so the first 2 things are hypnosis. Second thing is repetition. And thirdly, the most, effective is called energy psychology. And I go, what's energy psychology? And I go, it's called super learning. I go, so what the hell is super learning? I go, maybe you've seen somebody read a book by picking up a book and just moving their finger down the page, just like that, just as fast as that. And guess what? The subconscious mind, the supercomputer that it is, has read every word just by moving your finger down that, has read every word on that page. And a person using this super learning technique can go into a bookstore, open up a book, and 5 minutes later, by thumbing through each page, turn the page, turn the page, turn the page, they can read a whole book in 5 minutes. That's super learning. I say, if you can engage that function, you can also use super learning to create new programs, not in days or weeks, but you can create a new program in minutes. It's like, I go, absolutely. And it's so important. Why? Because there's an old phrase that's really critical. It's called necessity is the mother of invention. And I say, what's happening? We're facing a mass extinction due to human behavior that is compromising the web of life. Humans are creating this through our behavior, our culture. I say, you want to survive this whole, extinction event? Well, then you have to create something different. You have to change behavior. Money is the equivalent of energy. So you can buy energy with your cash. And the significance about that is if you're frugal and take care of your money and keep a balance, then you always have this energy in your bank account, energy in which you can live. However, obviously, if you waste this energy, then you actually interfere with your own survival. So you don't really want to go out and just throw away your money. And so basically, I really want to show you that this is an important insight into the nature of our own health and our biology and the world we create in this regard. That our biological system, the cells, rely on energy. Without energy, there's no life. So fundamentally, you have an energy budget that gives you life. And in fact, in the body, energy is in coins called ATP, molecules that represent units of energy. So in fact, biologists refer to ATP as the coin of the realm. The significance of ATP is this, is that ATP molecules are like units of gasoline, like gallon of gas, that are used to fuel our biological processes. So to stay alive, we have to have all this ATP. So there's an ATP account in your body right now. But the question is, how do you use this ATP? And now here's an important fact, that 25% of the total energy in your whole body is used to operate your brain. So all of a sudden you start to recognize that the brain uses energy at the rate of muscles of a marathon runner. So brain and muscle activity are pretty much the same. And so why is this important? Because as you're using your brain, as you're using your thinking, you are actually using energy. Now, why is this relevant? And the answer is very simply this. Because the way we've been using our thoughts are not necessarily productive. As a matter of fact, sometimes our investments of our thoughts are actually counterproductive because our thoughts create a reality that we then have to overcome. So basically it says that we must start to become aware of our thoughts. And why is this important? Because thoughts represent units of energy. Every time you have a thought, you use energy. Why this becomes relevant is, if I give you a checkbook for your bank account, you don't go down the street and just write checks to people like, oh, hey, you're a nice looking guy, here's 10 bucks for you, and oh, here, little girl, go out and buy yourself a little car, here's $1,000 for you. And you don't give away your money. Why? Because giving away your money is giving away your life. So basically, you become very frugal when you have a checkbook in your hand. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You have an energy budget in your body. The energy is what keeps you alive. When you start using energy and writing checks where you get no return from your energy, they're counterproductive. Thoughts like fear, or what am I going to do, and how am I going to escape this problem, or how's this going to go wrong, and all these other kinds of thoughts that are negative kinds of thoughts, then realize this. You are actually not just using your energy for having these thoughts, but these thoughts are also what come into your reality. What you focus on with your thoughts, your brain will manifest as reality. Being a biologist, I want to talk about a different aspect of service, but it's the same thing, because my dear friend Savaji was talking about service and how we can influence the world around us. I want to give you an interesting biological insight about your own personal consequence of being in service. And basically, it has to deal with the DNA in your cells. I say, what does that mean? I say, well, the DNA is the genetic code. I say, and every time the cell divides, you have to copy that code. And so if I can try to make an image with my hand here, imagine my arm is the DNA. And I say, it's time to copy it. There's a protein, so let's say the microphone, okay, thank you, that my hand is the copying device. It's like a train on a railroad track. As the train moves down the DNA, it leaves behind a copy of the DNA it just rode over. I say, well, that's really cool, except guess what? When the train gets to the end of the DNA, it can't copy the part where the train is sitting on it. So it copied everything all the way up to here, but can't copy this piece. So when I copy it, the new piece is shorter than the original piece. And so every time you copy, every time the cell divides, the DNA gets a little shorter than it did before. And I say, well, why is this relevant? Because if you make a shorter piece of DNA when you copy it, then every time you're copying it, you're interfering with the genetic code. So it's like, well, nature would say, oh my God, if every time the cell divides, pretty soon I'll chop that DNA up and I'll have a problem. But nature, of course, being quite intelligent, adds a piece of DNA at the end that is not the gene. It's just an extension. It's called a telomere. You may have heard the word telomere. And I say, what is it? It's an extra railroad track, but it's not the genes. And I say, why is it relevant? Because every time I copy it, I lose a piece of the telomere, but I didn't cut into the genes. And I say, well, what's aging all about? And here's what we now know. Aging, depression, and disease result when you copy the DNA so many times that you run out of that track of telomere, and the next time you copy, you're cutting off the gene, which interferes with your biology. So originally it was thought, oh, the telomeres have a fixed length, and every time it divides, you lose a piece of the length, and the scientist back in the 60s, Leonard Hayflick, calculated how many times can a cell divide before it runs out of telomere? And it came out, oh, it was about 50 to 60 cell divisions. I say, well, why is that relevant? Because our stem cells, which keep us alive, when they keep dividing, what happens after your stem cells went through 50 cell divisions? Now your stem cells won't work anymore, and now you can't replace your cells in your body. And that's when they said, oh, humans have a given lifetime, 90, 100 years at max, and that's your lifetime because that's when you run out of telomeres. That was very depressing because it says, oh my God, if I'm under stress, I actually cut the telomeres even faster. The more stress you're under, the more they disappears. Now, and it was because of, again, a woman scientist, because they always come up with the neat stuff that the men are not looking at. A woman scientist found there was an enzyme called telomerase, telomerase. And I say, what's that enzyme? It adds the length of the telomere. So as the cells are dividing, if you can activate this enzyme, it will extend the telomeres so the cells have a relatively unlimited lifespan. And so the relevance is the belief that we only live 100 years is mainly a consequence of not being able to continue to extend the telomeres in a normal person. So they started to find out, well, what influences the telomere? Well, the biggest thing is lack of love. If you have a lack of love, the feedback will shut off the telomerase enzyme. If you have stress in your life, stress shuts off the enzyme. If you have no gratitude or appreciation of life, it shuts off the enzyme. Why? Well, if you don't like life, then why give you extra life? That's the enzyme is just responding. But now it comes down to the opposites of those. Love and self-love, which is most critical, is one of the big drivers of telomerase. Gratitude and joy of being in this world enhances the enzyme. Why? If you love the world, you want more, and the cells will give you more. But now, and it's a beautiful question, the most important contributor to telomerase activity is service. That you are doing something on this planet, you have a mission to do something, and that your nervous system is telling your cells, I'm not ready to go, I have a job to do. And caregivers, for example, live an extraordinarily longer, healthier life than other people. Why? A caregiver's mentality is, I have to service and help these people, and therefore I cannot leave yet, and I have to be healthy. The feedback from the nervous system to the cells activates telomerase. So the simple line is this: if we have a mission and we have something to do on this planet, you will activate telomerase. Service is one of the primary things. So it says if you're just meandering through the earth, nice, you're going to end around 90. But if you're in service to the world, you can extend your life. And right now, biologists somewhat agree that our minimum lifespan is 140 years. I was looking for relationships. I kept failing at them, okay? I end up in the Caribbean teaching at a medical school. The universe throws this into my lap. The perfect pickup line in the whole world is sort of like, hey, if you're not doing anything, you want to come and stay in my villa in the Caribbean and hang out? I have a villa on the beach and I got my own place and blah, blah, blah. And I still wasn't able to find anybody. But I kept looking because I said, I need a relationship. I need a relationship. So I meet this woman who comes off of some yacht, and she's, got a future that's like she'll do what she wants. And I thought, well, if you're not doing anything, why don't you want to come and stay with me in my villa on this beautiful island? She looked at me, and then she said, I can't be with you. And I sort of like stopped for a moment. And she looked at me and she says, you're too needy. And all of a sudden, it hit me. And I said, oh my God, what am I looking for? A relationship. Why? Because you're not happy. So if you're looking for a relationship because you're not happy, then you're depending on that relationship to make you happy. So that's not a nice relationship. It's codependency. if I give you this place to stay, you will make me happy. That's a trade. It's like,
yes.
And after she said that, I was stunned for a moment. I can't be with you. You're too needy, she said. And I was stunned. And then all of a sudden I said, thank you. Thank you very much. It was sort of a slap in the face, right?
It's like a blessing in disguise, right?
It totally was. It was like, wake up. And I walked away from that. And I looked at my life and I said, you got this most amazing job. You teach a couple days a week. You live in the Caribbean. You got a villa. You got money in your pocket because you get paid and there's nothing to buy in the Caribbean anyways. I say, you're healthy. You got money. You got a great place to live. You have the most wonderful job. I go, you can't be happy with that. That's what I said to myself. I said, how can I, I'm looking for this person to make me happy. I said, oh, no, first I make me happy.
Yeah.
And then when I make me happy, that changed it. And it did. What happened is I stopped bitching and started to enjoy. Look, don't you love where you live? Yeah, I love where I live. Do you love the sea? Oh, I love the sea. You like it? Oh, I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I started focusing on, hey, these are things I love. And guess what? I didn't need anybody.
That's when you created abundance, and that's when people became attracted to you, right?
100%, because once I didn't need them, I wasn't like, come here. I was like, I don't care.
It's fascinating how it works.
Then they showed up. They showed up because I did not need. That was the word. Because need puts pressure on that other person that they have to provide. And then they didn't have to provide. It was like, hey, let me hang out with you. I don't have to provide anything. I could just be me. I go, yeah, you be you, I be me. We have a great time. And that was the beginning of reprogramming a need for a relationship until I was happy with myself. And until that, once I was happy with myself and I didn't need a relationship, you should have seen how many opportunities showed up that were never there in my life before because the need part pushed them away. I was a scientist. And as a scientist, we don't bring spirituality and mind into the story. It's all genes and cells and molecules and all that. And my research on stem cells revealed that while I was teaching in medical school that genes control life, my research revealed that it was the environment in which the cells lived that controlled the cells. It was outside information coming into the cells. And I remember how specifically in a moment of time that I was working on trying to understand the mechanics from a molecular point of view. How does an environmental signal control biology? And I was working not on the genes, I was working on the skin of the cell, the membrane. And it was so profound, it's hard for me to even describe it. I'm working on the understanding, how does information from the environment control biology? And I had looked at the membrane for years, and I wrote a new definition of the mechanism of the membrane. And I wrote this definition, and this is in 1985. It was about 2 a.m., and I wrote down the membrane is a liquid crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. When I wrote that down, there was a pause, and I said, I read something exactly like that. And right next to my first computer, a Macintosh, was a simple book of understanding your microprocessor. And I opened it up, and I said, somewhere, and I opened it right in the introduction. It said, a chip is a crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. And I thought, oh, what a coincidence. They have the same definition. And then in a couple of seconds, I started to say, wait a minute. One for one, the parts are exactly the same. I said, oh my God. The membrane is a computer chip. And on the surface of the cell are like keys, like on a typewriter. And I started to realize, oh my goodness, the environment is typing on the surface of the cell information that went into the cell and controlled the genetics and the behavior. And it was like, oh, this is real exciting. And I'm typing on my own computer, typing this information in. And then I realized I am outside of the computer, typing on the keyboard, and the information is coming up on the computer. And then I said, oh my God. This keyboard on the surface of your cells has a number of keys that represent a PIN number, a personal identification number, and no two of you have the same keys on that. Each of us have a different PIN number to get into our own cells. It's our personal identity, and these are the keys. And I realized, oh my God, well, we've been focusing on these, what are called receptors, as the source of identity. I realized, no, it's what's activating, what's typing is the identity. And then it hit me and said, oh my God, my identity is not in the cell. My identity is a signal coming from the environment, typing on the keyboard. And then I said, oh, and the first thing that hit me was, I can't die. I'm not even in here. And that instant of fear, which all of us have in our deepest bottom belief system, is a fear of our mortality. And when that moment of like, I can't die, not as a devotional belief, it had nothing to do with that, it was just a mechanism, I said, oh my God, I can't die. I tell you, the same thing happened with Savaji as me. Tears started rolling down my face, and this joy was an ache in my heart that I've never experienced before. I spent 40 years in my head. That's how I became an academician and a research scientist. And when this moment hit, it was my heart that blew open. I refer to it as a heart orgasm. And, and that was the first time I experienced my heart as an essential part of my own conscious existence. And what happened was, I was overwhelmed, first with the fact that I was not spiritual at 1:59 a.m., and at 2 a.m., I was 100% spiritual. When we look at our lives, and I tell you that 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious program, this is not, it's new on a scientific awareness of how this mechanism works. But what's interesting is for 400 years, the knowledge that you could program somebody and control their lives has been available. It was the Jesuits who 400 years ago said, give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man. Most people didn't understand what they were saying, and what it is the first 7 years, which we now know biologically and scientifically is the program period. They knew that 400 years ago, and they said if I can get that program in the first 7 years, that program will determine the life of that individual. I'll show you the man because they will represent the program. Now, the really important part is, since every one of us has been programmed, the big issue is, so what were those programs? Because if I ask you, so what program did you get when you were 1 year old? I have no idea. I wasn't really there. In fact, you were actually being programmed even before you were born, the last trimester of pregnancy. You were being programmed. And I go, well, this is really a critical issue, because the first thing I'm telling you is your life is 95% programmed, and most of that is really disempowering. And of course, the first thing I would think is, then what are those programs so I could deal with them? So I want to make something very easy for you so you don't have to go and review your whole life and try to figure out what the programs are. Save you a lot of time. The fact is this: you are playing the program 95% of the day, meaning your life is a printout of your program. So you don't have to go back in time to review. That would just actually irritate the system more, because every time you review those things that unsettled you when you were younger, it just reinforces that same pain that you had earlier. So going back and finding out who did what to who is more than just a waste of time. It actually will set you back. As a matter of fact, there's an old phrase that people have heard, and it says, don't kill the messenger over the message. What that means is this: don't go back and blame all the people that did this and that and that and that. That's irrelevant. Who they are is irrelevant. What's relevant is, what program did you walk away with? Not who did the event, but what you learned. So now I said, okay, I've been programmed and I have no idea what the program is. I said, then look at your life, and here's the simple resolution. Everything in your life that you like and it comes to you, it's because you have a program to support that. That's wonderful. That means that's great. It's going to come to you because that program is bringing it to you. But in contrast, this is the one that's important. Anything you work hard to accomplish, anything you struggle over to make it happen, anything you put a lot of effort in, I want this, I'm going to work like crazy, I'm going to get this. My first question is, why are you working so hard? And the answer is very simple. Anything you're struggling to try to accomplish, whether it's health or love, relationships, whatever it is, if you're struggling, it represents a simple fact. Your subconscious programming doesn't support that conclusion. So the fact is, what are my programs? Look at your struggle. And wherever you're struggling, the struggle is not because the universe won't provide for you. The struggle is an internal job. The struggle is you're trying to overcome previous programming that prevents you to go to that destination. So the wonderful part about this understanding is you don't have to review your life. You can look right now. At this one moment, just look in your head and say, what are the things that I keep trying to get and they seem to be elusive? I can't get them. They're always out of reach. I say, the universe is not holding back. It's your own invisible subconscious behavior.
You have to wake up to the reality, folks, that you're all a bunch of weak and vulnerable people when it comes to what's outside there. The sky is literally falling. Reports from Australia have come in that everybody that walked outside their survival shelter was literally crushed by the sky as it came down upon them. The once beautiful and green hills of the countryside have become a barren wasteland, not to mention a band of unruly sorcerers have bewitched the land. There are even reports of animals taking up arms, walking on 2 legs. Be afraid, everyone. This is something we could never anticipate. It is my job to keep you informed of all the latest horrible things going on out there. I'm just trying to protect you.
I can't take any more of this. I can't watch this anymore. Oh. No more water. No more food. How am I going to survive in here? But I can't go out there. I can't survive in here. I can't survive out there. What am I going to do?
Meet Bruce Lipton, portrait of a man paralyzed by fear. The lowly cellular biologist has been hiding away in his survival shelter for more days than he can count. And the apparent terror that reigns outside the doors of his rusty presents a limitless degree of terror in his mind. However, there is one problem that takes center stage on this inauspicious day. Bruce has run out of food and water. The question of how to survive in a state of chronic protection lingers ever so greatly. What you are about to witness is a strange sort of mortal combat between a man and his beliefs. In the Twilight Zone, you are entering a new reality of mind. Unlock your potential with the key of imagination. A realm of ever-changing perceptions. A world of quantum physics, beliefs, and miracles. You have just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
I've got no more water, and I've got no more food. I can't survive by staying in protection. In order to survive, I have to go out because I can grow on the outside. And I can't go out there because there's so many scary things out there that can threaten my life. But wait a minute. It was in quantum physics. Yes, quantum physics, the most valid science on this planet. Here it is. Consciousness is creating our life experiences. Wow, I have to have a different consciousness. I can't be afraid because the stress shuts off my immune system and the stress shuts down my growth and maintenance of my body. I have to change that consciousness. I can't be in fear. I have to recognize how powerful I am. I am a co-creator of the world. I am strong. I am healthy. I have to maintain this as a way of life, a belief system before I go out there. But now that I'm aware, I no longer fear going out there.
The world can often present us with a frightening reality, but sometimes the fear we experience only exists in our minds. And now for Bruce, fear only exists in the Twilight Zone.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, the dead man's on the la la la, the la la la. Oh wow, what a glorious day to be sailing on the sea. I think I should be checking my bearings at this point. North by northwest, that's right. Hank told me, take a left at the island, then follow north by northwest until I go toward the sunset. But it should be here somewhere. Kong Island should be somewhere, but it's not here. I think I better check my calculations again. So I left Port Moresby at 12, and going at 8 knots by 12:35, we should have been over here. Take the left at the island, and then we follow the tangent of the cosine of 381 for 8 minutes to the right, and then we should be approaching toward Kong Island. Uh-oh. I'm lost at sea. What should I do now? I knew I should have trusted my feelings when Hank gave me directions. It just didn't even feel right. And in today's world, we're told, don't go by the feelings. If I did, I would have probably been better off at this moment. So when we recognize we have to make a decision, we can do it in 2 fundamental ways. First, do an assessment, an analysis of step by step, what does this decision mean and why should I choose it? But when you get to the end, before you absolutely take that information and make a decision based on that, ask your heart. And the reason why is this: the heart doesn't care about the individual steps in the decision. The heart only looks at the conclusion. Either you get more energy from this decision, a good vibe, a feeling that this is right, or the heart will give you a feeling of bad vibes, less energy, a feeling that maybe this isn't the right answer. So the significance is really profound because the heart just reads energy. And higher energy is more life, less energy is less life. So in making a decision, yes, it's acceptable to do the analysis, but before you come to that final decision, please check in with your heart. Feel the feelings. If the feelings are good, that means go toward that direction. But if you feel questioned about it, you feel weaker about it, doesn't just feel right, the heart is telling you right off that that energy is not good for you and you should use some other decision. Oh, wow. That's so wonderful. What a wonderful way to make a decision based on these feelings. And they can help us find the direction that we need to go in and lead us to a better life. Uh-oh. I guess that's not really working for me at this moment. Whoops. Oh well. Computer, end simulation. Scotty, how many times have I told you not to leave me off at sea? You know I can't swim. Meet me at the bridge. You have some splaining to do. You can change the programming. You can rewrite your subconscious programs. And why is that relevant? If you took the wishes and desires of the conscious mind and used that as a program to put the beliefs into the subconscious mind, it's the most exciting and liberating thing you can ever do in your life. You know why? Because once it's in the subconscious program, 95% of the day, without you even thinking about it, your mind will take you to that direction. And that is your freedom. Well, how do you change the subconscious mind? I say, how did it learn in the first place? I say, what was the first one? I say, theta, 7 years. Brain was functioning lower vibration than consciousness. You have to slow down the brain to a much slower vibration. Then it goes into the subconscious mind. That's why hypnotherapists in the old days, they had a watch and they would swing it back and forth. So the watch would swing and they would tell the person, you're getting sleepy, you're getting tired. And the reason they say that is because that shuts down the conscious vibration. And the next vibration is theta, which is hypnosis. So to get you into hypnosis, first I have to get your conscious brain to stop. Mm-hmm. And then in hypnosis state theta, the vibration theta, then whatever is coming from the outside is not going into my conscious mind. Whatever I see on the outside is going into my subconscious program. So if you want to change the subconscious, you have to talk to the subconscious. I go, how do you do that? Well, number one, hypnosis. And I go, oh, well, I need to see the hypnotherapist? I go, no, this is the cool part. Mm-hmm. I say, why? I said, we have different vibrations. The lowest vibration is delta, is sleep. The next higher vibration is theta, hypnosis, imagination. The next higher vibration is alpha, calm consciousness. And the next higher vibration is called beta, which is like schoolroom, like what we're doing here, consciousness, okay? I go, so why is it relevant? I say, when you're asleep, you're at the lowest. And when you start to wake up, you go up first to theta. And that's like in the morning where you're half awake and half asleep. And then I said, but then when you're awake, you're in alpha. Now you're in consciousness. And then when you go to work, you're in beta, which is like the working consciousness. But when you come home, it reverses. So I come home from work, I'm in beta, but I relax. Oh, the consciousness vibration slows down to alpha. And here's the fact. The moment that the vibrations get a little lower than alpha, consciousness is now shut off for the night. You're sleeping. Yeah, but there's a period of time after alpha shuts off before it reaches delta, the lowest one. There's a period of time of theta. I go, why is it relevant? I said, you put earphones on. And the moment, and you play a program of what? Of what you want. A self-help program of make a relationship, be healthy, do a job, whatever. You get the program, self-help program. I say, you put it on a CD player, let's say, and you put the earphones on. And while you're still awake, just before you go to sleep, you can hear what's going on. But the moment you fall asleep, conscious mind shut off, but guess what? Theta is on.
The work is getting done, right?
Right. It's good. You're getting a self-hypnosis with the earphone. So whatever you didn't hear it, you were sleeping. The subconscious mind was hearing it. And when you repeat that, that's how you put a new program in. So that's number one, self-hypnosis. I had tenure at the university. I walked out of the university and said, look, I can't keep my integrity and at the same time teach something I know was patently wrong. So I walked out because I saw that teaching the belief that genes control life was very, very incorrect. And it's very interesting because I did that in 1970. Now that's like 40 years ago. I was cloning stem cells back in 1967, 40 years ago. And the significance was, while I was doing this research, I was also teaching medical students. So I was teaching medical students the foundation of how cells work, the conventional story out of the textbook, genes control life, what we call the genetic determinism, the belief that genes control your traits, behavior, your physical characteristics, etc. And what my research revealed when I was studying the stem cells was this, very profound. I put one stem cell in a petri dish all by itself, and it would divide every 10 to 12 hours. So it'd be 2, 4, 8, 16 cells, 32 cells. After about 2 weeks, I have thousands of cells in the petri dish, but what was unique? They were all genetically identical. But then I did the experiment. The experiment was to take some cells out of the dish and put them into a separate dish with a different environment. Okay. And so the environment is a culture medium, but the culture medium to cells is like the world that we live in. It's got the air, the water, the food, all the things in it. So I take the cells out of my stem cell dish, put them in a separate dish with a different environment, and the cells form muscle. But then I went back to the same dish with genetically identical cells in it and took some cells out and put them in a different environment, and they form bone. And then I went back to the same dish with genetically identical cells and put them in a third petri dish with a different environment, and they form fat cells. And there I was confronted with this reality. All the cells are genetically identical, but they had different fate, fat, muscle, bone. And I said, simple question, what controls the fate of cells? And the answer is the environment. It was the only thing that was different because they were all genetically identical. So I started to really say, oh my goodness, here I am teaching genes control life to the medical students. And yet the cells were revealing to me that, hey, they all had the same genes, but it was the environment that I put them in. And so the environment controlled their life. And a very simple experiment that is very profound for us today is, if I took my dish with plastic petri dish with cells in it and moved it from a healthy environment to a less than healthy environment, the cells get sick. And if I were a doctor of cells, you might say, well, what kind of drugs would you give these cells? And it turns out, no, you don't give the cells any drugs. You just take the dish from the bad environment, put it back into a good environment, and the cells will innately, naturally come back to health again. The thinking is not that much in our control. The brain is operating, as I said, 95% from the subconscious.
But how did you actually then get results in a relatively short space of time?
Well, the first thing, how does the subconscious learn? And that's a very critical thing. The conscious mind can learn from reading a book. So the subconscious mind can read a self-help book, and you go, wow, that sounds really great. And then you find you read the book, but your life is still the same. And it turns out, why? And the answer is because the subconscious mind is more of a habit mind, things that you repeat over and over again. Yes. Yeah. So the reality is, if you can stay conscious, be present, and when those negative thoughts come in our head, and psychologists tell us 70% of the time, the thoughts that are going through our head are negative and redundant, so the same negative thoughts are going through. If you could stop those thoughts, if you could hear them as they come through, like, oh, that's not going to work, or this will never happen, those kind of thoughts. If you can hear them and stop them consciously, say, no, change the belief right there, just give the more positive thing. As you repeat this more frequently and you keep repeating it, the subconscious mind begins to learn. So as a habit, if you stay conscious, and you have to work at it, and here's why people say, well, how come only 5% from conscious mind, 95% from subconscious? Because the conscious mind can think into the future and think into the past and solve problems. Then think about it yourself. Most of the time, you're thinking about something. Well, if you're thinking, you're using the conscious mind. Well, if you're using the conscious mind for thinking, then who's running the show? And the answer is, when you're not paying attention and you're thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow, your subconscious is running the show. I don't care how much knowledge is in your head. If that knowledge doesn't go into your subconscious, your life will stay exactly the same as it was. You can be the brightest, smartest academic, and I say, fine, did it change your life? And the answer is no. You have to take the knowledge that you are walking within your conscious mind and put that knowledge into your subconscious programming. And when you do that, you are all powerful in the creation of your own life. And so just walking around and being able to recite all these wonderful sayings and things that you hear from all the wonderful teachers that we have, and you say, oh yes, I remember that, that's a good quote, that's a nice quote, oh that's a wonderful saying. It's irrelevant until that saying becomes part of your program, because now you are living from the saying and not talking about the saying. And that was the total transformation of a life that on an academic level was successful, on a personal level, I don't even want to talk about that, but it changed everything. Why? Because instead of having to chase after life, after this understanding, things came to me. The light will bring it to you. The only thing that's in your way of the light is a block in your belief that other people have put into your programming. You take your knowledge that you have, make it your subconscious program, and you will manifest all of the wonderful spiritual wisdom that you have heard throughout your whole life. Is not words now, it is life and behavior, and that's our destination. And in 1925, physicists said that our vision of a universe split into an invisible energy realm and a material physical realm was a total illusion. That everything is energy. The whole thing, there is no matter in this world. And to summarize what the meaning was, a famous physicist in 1930 by the name of Sir James Jeans said, we have been led to believe that the universe is a great machine, when in fact it is more a great thought. And the reality about that was quantum physicists have established since 1925 that consciousness is the primary mechanism of creativity of the world that we experience. In fact, a more recent article in the journal Nature, which is like a scientific mainstream journal, was an article by a quantum physicist at Johns Hopkins University by the name of Richard Conn Henry. And his article was entitled The Mental Universe. I know the last two lines in the article because they were like so powerful. And here's what the conclusion of the article was. The universe is immaterial. It's mental and spiritual. Live and enjoy. And this is so exciting because science is coming out saying it mental and spiritual. It's like, oh my God. But that's the quantum physics part. And the reality about it, why is that so important, as Sadhvijay had just mentioned, it's our thoughts that are manifesting this world. Now you could say that's a spiritual thing, and now I say not only is it spiritual, now it is fundamental basic science of the universe. And it says then the thoughts are creative. Well, if the thoughts are creative, then who is having the thought? And you start to realize, I'm having the thought. Well, then the truth is simple, as Richard Conn Henry said, you are creating this world with your mental activity and your spirituality combined. And then all of a sudden it says, well, then if I'm creating the world, then my original belief that when things didn't go right, I was a victim. The universe wasn't supporting me. You know, it's like, oh, I try so hard and the universe is not giving me things. It turns 180 degrees around. And it basically says this, we are creating this world. And then I say your mind is creating this world. What we would see from a new understanding of evolution, which is a great extension beyond the Darwinian belief, which is quite limiting, okay, and quite troublesome, in fact. Because just think about what the principal Darwinian belief is, that evolution is based on a struggle for survival with a competition for fitness. So that says, oh my God, then our world is, we're all out there in a dog-eat-dog rat race trying to survive, because if you stop running, the person behind you is going to run over you. So if that's your way of life, then every day, by definition, you are living in a stress hormone body because of all the fears that we have. And yet evolution says, no, evolution is based on community and cooperation. A body has 50 trillion citizens. They live in harmony with each other. And it turns out that every human being, we're beginning to find out, is like a cell in a larger community called humanity. So in biological terms, the organism that's evolving on the planet is not the human being. We already did that. The organism that's evolving is the superorganism called human civilization. And right now, humans are fighting each other and killing each other. And if I say, well, what would that look like inside the body if the cells fight each other and kill each other? And I say, oh, well, that's called autoimmune disease, self-destruction. And autoimmune disease can kill you from the inside.
And that's on the increase, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, because our biological lives are complements to the environment.
Yeah.
The more stress and more violence on the outside, the more that's taken inside in biology and converted to disruption and disharmony of your own cellular internal community. If you can create a honeymoon for yourself while you're in love, and everyone started to create a honeymoon for themselves, then all of a sudden the concept of war and violence would disappear, because if everybody's in love and everybody's in harmony and everybody's so excited by being here, then the competition and violence that we live by because of today's beliefs would disappear. You want to change the world? We don't have to physically go out and physically change the world first. First, we have to change our belief about the world, our belief of who we are in the world. We're not victims, but we've been programmed to believe we're frail, vulnerable, that we're victims of the world. And the fact is, no, we are the most powerful beings and entities on this planet. We want to get out of the box? Think out of the box, and that will change all of it. Everything you do in your life, you put out energy for. Therefore, start to review what you're doing in your life. Because if you're putting your energy into things you cannot change in this world, that is exactly the same as writing a check and just throwing away your money to the outside because you get nothing back from it. So think about this very interesting reality, that you have this energy checkbook. And every time you use energy, you have to say, is the use of this energy going to enhance my life, or is it just wasted energy? Am I getting involved in a political argument with people where I'm going to use up all my energy, and will I have changed the world? No. Am I going to use up all my energy to try to convince other people to change their life or change their way of living to make them even healthier?
Many people may think, well, hold on a second, so I can take 5 minutes and I can totally change my life and that's all I need. And I think...
Well, that's a really wonderful possibility, but the probability is this. Are you going to hit the right statement? That is the one that you need to change your life, okay? Let's say someone's overweight. Mm-hmm. And they say in their mind, I am, a number they like. I am 125 pounds, and you're not. And I say, so I want to change my weight, and I put a program in, I'm going to lose weight. And I go, well, wait, that extra poundage, that might be due to protection. I go, what do you mean? I say, if I, as a young person, was abused, then the consciousness is, if I'm a heavy person, they won't bother me anymore. And so the weight isn't due to just eating food. The weight was actually due to I'm safer being heavy than I am. I say, well, if you want to change your weight, you can talk about the weight all you want, but until you adjust the problem from the fear, that I'm going to be abused, that's where the problem came from. It didn't come from eating food over here. So I say, well, you can change beliefs. Sometimes I like to give a visual. As a matter of fact, I visualize a big spider web, which has like circles and then lines coming out, like a web, okay? And so there are links as you go around. There's also anchors where the web is anchored at a couple of places. And I go, each belief is like a link in that spider web. And you can do one link and another link and another link. That really change the spider web. But if you do a belief that is an anchor, and you change the anchor belief, and that anchor lets go, the web will collapse.
That's powerful.
So and the point is this: sometimes a belief statement knocks out a link, but when you really hit it just right, you knock out a support. And when you knock out a major support, the whole web collapses instead of just a link at a time, which could take it down, but it's much harder that way. You have a very close friend. You know your friend's behavior, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And at some point you see that your friend shares the same behavior as their parent. So you casually volunteer, you go, Bill, you're just like your dad. And that's when you have to back away from Bill, because Bill's the first guy that says, how can you compare me to my dad? And everyone laughs because they're familiar, but I say, no, there's two very profound points from that one story, and profound point number one. Everybody else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. He got his programming from his dad. It's only Bill who doesn't see it. Yeah. And profound point number two, we're all Bill, because all of us got programming, and all of us operate with these programs, and we don't even see we're doing it. That we, even when told we're doing it, will deny that we do these behaviors because we don't even see when we're doing it. That's why it's called subconscious, below conscious. When I first started talking about it, it was from an academic conscious point of view. This is what I learned, but my subconscious programs are still exactly the same. So while I had this wonderful knowledge, my life still wasn't anything I wanted to brag about it, because it wasn't. And as you know, that old game, well, who would you like to be? And I could think of anybody I'd rather be than me. And yet, when I started to apply the new science and rewrite the subconscious so it supported me rather than the programs of limitation or disempowerment that we get from our parents and our community as children, which almost all of us get, when I put in the new programs, all of a sudden I started to find, my goodness, my life completely turned around. All wonderful things started happening in my life. I was healthier. I haven't been to a doctor in 20 years. I don't need that. I don't take any of their drugs. Why? Because most of the illness is just from the stress of not living in harmony. And when you learn to get rid of the limiting programs that we got as children and put in programs that support you, guess what? Then all of a sudden the place turns into heaven. And it's interesting, people, I tell people, well, you create your own life, and then they look around and go, I don't want responsibility for this. But I say, well, you didn't know you were creating with these unconscious beliefs. And yet then I tell people, especially people that have fallen in love, and people have fallen head over heels in love. I say, go back to that time when you first fell in love. Let me ask you a question. Were you healthy? And oh yeah, I was healthy as anything. I said, did you have energy? I said, oh, I had so much energy, made love for days in a row without even eating. And I go, yeah, and I go, and how was life for you? It was so exciting. I couldn't wait for the next day. So I said, in this little period that that I refer to as a honeymoon, I say, wasn't life like heaven on earth? And they go, well, yeah. And I go, that was not an accident. That was an actual creation. And you say, but what was different that made life so heaven on earth during love? And the answer is because you become very self-conscious of yourself. You don't rely on the habits. The day before you meet this person, you're going to go on a date. I say, especially to women, I say, how long did it take you to get dressed? And they say, well, it was 15 minutes and I was out of the house. And then I say, now, tonight, you're going to go on a date with this person who has just rocked your world. And I say, how long does it take you to get dressed? It's like, my God, it may take an hour or two. And I say, yesterday, 15 minutes, today, an hour or two. What's the difference? Yesterday, I got dressed by habit because I get dressed every day. Yeah. But tonight, I am looking in the mirror, meaning I am self-conscious. I am making sure that I represent myself to be the best individual I can be. And when both parties are not relying on the habit, and both of them are saying, I'm creating the best I can be, they're living in the moment of the now, they're being very mindful, they're being very present, and guess what? Heaven on earth is created. When you're putting in a wish and a desire, put it in as if you already have it. I am healthy. I am a good relationship person. I have a great job. What's that? I say, it's like I already have it. And yet most people don't have it. So they'll say, I want a great job. I want a great relationship. I want to be healthy. And I go, make a recording of those words. We just said that. I want to be healthy. Today, right now, Tuesday, we're going to make a recording. I say, now come back in 1 year and let's push the button on that recording. And we come back a year later and it says, I want to be healthy. I go, it's a whole year and you still want to be healthy.
Still don't have it, right?
You didn't say I am healthy. All you're emphasizing, I have a desire to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I have a desire to be healthy. And I go, you can have that desire the rest of your life. You're not going to get healthy. Mm-hmm. You want to be healthy, you say, I am healthy. But then you look and say, yeah, but in reality, I'm sick. And I go, no. The function of the mind is to take the program and turn it into reality. So if I am sick, but I put a program in, I am healthy, the mind looks, like, well, wait a second. The program is I am healthy, but the body is not healthy. So what's the function of the mind? Create health in the body. It doesn't change the program. It changes the body. And so the idea is this. Every time we put a program in, it has to be as if you already have it, in spite of the fact you could be dying of cancer. I go, I am healthy. It sounds kind of weird. And I go, don't worry about it. Just put it on I am healthy, because once it is a program, the function of the mind is to manifest it as reality. Mm-hmm. That's the part. And so my little caveat, you brought it up, I'm emphasizing it, and that was simply this, that whatever you're downloading, you have to say it as if you already have it. Because if you put a future tense on it, I will, I want, I say, if you record that, that means you will always want to have it. I will do this. You won't get there. So I just wanted to bring that in, because if we're making a program, then you must make sure it says as if you already have it, in spite of the fact you don't.
We all have approximately 50 trillion cells in our body, and these cells are all self-sufficient. They have their own memory, they have their own immune system, and in fact you also go on to say that for 2.75 billion years there was only one-celled organisms alive on the planet.
Yeah, and the nature is, as the single cell evolved to be the most intelligent it could be, it ran into a physical limitation, because intelligence is physically tied up with the membrane or skin of the cell. You can only have so much membrane. So evolution apparently stopped. It was like 2.5 billion years, just a single cell organism. Then it said, well, how can you have more evolution? The answer is cells decided to come together in community, because when cells come into community, they share awareness. So there's more awareness with 10 cells than there is with one cell. And there's more awareness with 1 million or 1 billion or 1 trillion. So when you look at a human being, while we see ourselves as single entities, the truth is we are made out of 50 trillion amoeba-like cells. And so our body is this giant community. And what makes it very exciting, as you mentioned, is, well, in my own work with cloning cells, I can take a cell out of your body and it could live outside of you. Why? It has its own intelligence. It has essentially every function in your body is present in a cell. So my 7-year-old vision manifests to be true when I got older, to realize cells are miniature people. And then you say, well, what about happens in the human body? And I go, this is where the issue comes in, is because you have 50 trillion cells living in community, but your mind is the government. When a government works in harmony with the people, then the people thrive and the community is in good health and grows. But when a government is not really supportive or not working in harmony with a community, then a government can cause the nature of that community to fall apart or even lead to the end of the community. Well, that's what we're finding out. Our mind is the government. And when we entertain harmony and the right living in balance with nature and with each other, then we provide our 50 trillion cells with very life-supporting information and chemistry.
So harmony means giving the body good food,
Yes.
not being stressed out,
Absolutely.
living in a happy environment.
Yes. Basically, it says, it's as I said, when I had my petri dish of cells, if I put it from a healthy environment to a bad environment, the cells got sick. But you didn't have to give them drugs. But all you did is take the dish from the bad environment and put it in a good environment. And the joke, which I like to tell people, is, well, this happens in a plastic petri dish, but guess what? We are skin-covered petri dishes. Underneath our skin is 50 trillion cells living in a dish, and the culture medium is the blood. And so when I change the culture medium in a plastic dish, I change the fate of the cells. And I say, well, then what controls the culture medium? My blood, the chemistry. And the answer is, my thoughts influence my brain, and the brain releases chemistry that matches my thoughts. So when I'm in stress or I'm afraid of the world, I release different chemistry into the blood than if I open up my eyes and I find myself in love. I release completely different chemistry. And it's like, well, all I have to ask an individual is, how do you feel when you're in total love, or how do you feel when you're in fear? And the answer is, well, I feel totally different. And guess what? All the cells are bathed in that chemistry. And so the feeling of love produces totally different chemistry in the blood, chemistry that supports growth and healing of the body and supports the immune system. And in contrast, when we perceive reasons to be afraid and we release stress hormones into our body, we actually shut off the growth mechanisms and the immune system to save the energy. Why? Because if you believe you're going to have to run from that lion, you want all the energy available to run from a lion. So when a person is in stress, they allocate their energy reserves for fight or flight, but take it at the expense of the health of the system, the immune part of the system. And so the more stress you're under, the more bad chemistry, in a sense, of not supporting you that you experience. And it was a very important point. In our evolution, stress or fear was not the mainstay of life. The mainstay of life was to be happy and live in the harmony of the environment. Every now and then a saber-toothed tiger would come. Okay, now it's time to be stressed out. Now it's time to run. But the point is, once you escape from the saber-toothed tiger, in the old days, then it's like, oh, back to health and harmony. And I say, well, what about today's world? Today's world is 24/7 run from the tiger. And this is not biologically sustainable, because the chemistry of protection contrasts with the chemistry of growth. The cells in your body are covered up by the skin, disconnected from the environment. But in order to survive, these cells have to adjust their genetics and their behavior to adapt and maintain their survival in a changing environment. So the question is, then how do the cells inside your body actually know what's going on in the real world, because they're not connected to it? I go, this is the role of the nervous system. The nervous system's job is to read environmental signals and then relay those signals into the cell. So as illustrated right here, we are getting signals from two different environments in our body. Signals from within our body as well as signals from without our body, and the function of the nervous system is to read both of these environments. The relevance is the nervous system reads the information in the environment and then translates it into signals that are sent to the 50 trillion cells inside your body to alert them to what is going on in that world. So, in fact, that is a true statement. The environment is controlling the behavior of your cells. But the mind does an interpretation of those signals based on our life experiences. Now, for a lot of people, this seems difficult, but let's put it in a different context, because we can talk about computers. There's a very interesting fact about our brain as a computer, because it has an autocorrect mechanism built into the subconscious. Meaning what? Well, I can have my conscious mind like typing on the computer about what's going on in the world. But if I type something, that signal can be translated and sent to the cells. But if I type something that the subconscious has no recognition of, it will do like an autocorrect and change what I wrote to fit something that it thinks that I wrote as a subconscious. So I put in love, and subconscious changes that to live. That's a whole different meaning at this point because of misinterpretation. So the point is, your wishes and desires of your conscious mind are filtered by the programs in your subconscious mind. And if you have a wish or desire that doesn't conform to a program that already exists, then the subconscious mind's job is to retranslate that into something that makes sense for the subconscious belief, not for the conscious. So we may have wonderful wishes and desires, and if it doesn't conform to the programs that we receive, the subconscious will change those into something it understands. To make sense out of what I just said, consider using your cell phone. That you write something in your cell phone such as, let's put the word epigenetics in the cell phone. And I go, when I type epigenetics in, the database in the phone says, I don't know that word at all. And then what does it do? It throws up different options that could be closely related to epigenetics. And so the significance is, if I put something into my system that is not supported by the program, then the programming system will change whatever I did to accommodate what it believes is right. Now, the issue about this is, well, if I want to have epigenetics in my phone, then what I really have to do is open up my dictionary and add the word epigenetics. And now after that, anytime I write epigenetics, the phone mechanism will understand what I'm talking about. Well, going into the database and changing the program is the function of what energy psychology is all about. It says if your behavior is not conforming to your wishes and desires, then it will be necessary to go into your program and install new behaviors that you want to manifest. So now the brain will have a reflection or a resource of what you're talking about. So I really want to emphasize the nature of biology belief as different than the fact that just environment controls your genes. And I'll give you a very simple example of what I mean by that, by the fact that I can have two people in the very exact same environment, but each of these individuals has a totally different reaction to the environment. So if it was just environment that controlled your genes and your behavior, then both individuals should have exact same behavior. But the reality is no. The two people have different responses to the environment. I go, why? Same environment, but their minds have different interpretations. And it's the interpretation of the mind about that environment that is sent to the cells. So the important part is this. Yes, environment controls epigenetics. There's an external environment, but an internal environment. And yet recognize in humans, the internal environment is not a direct readout from the external world. It's an interpretation of that external world. And that's why each of us has a different response to the world in which we live. And that is why the biology of belief is an extension of the foundation that environment controls epigenetics. Medical science has revealed that from 1/3 to 2/3, which is significant, of all healing, whether it's drug-related or surgery or whatever healing process, the healing didn't come about from the process. The healing came about because the person believed the process was going to heal them. So if I give you this brand new drug and it's purple colored because that makes it really special, you know, and it's funny because there is a drug, a purple drug, and they said, it's purple. And everybody's like, oh, wow, that's got to be special. But people believe that the drug holds this effect. And you give a person this drug, and all of a sudden they heal themselves, and they say, yeah, the drug did it. And then you tell them later, but it was just a sugar pill. That healing didn't come from the drug. It came from the belief in the drug. So the belief in healing is what heals you.
So it comes back to the mind again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's again the power of belief. In this case, it's a very positive belief that this procedure, drug, or whatever is going to heal me. But what people haven't talked about, because everyone knows about the placebo effect, is that the placebo effect is based on a positive thinking. What is the consequence of negative thinking? Well, science has a term for it, but it hasn't really come out in the public. It's called the nocebo effect. And the nocebo effect has been revealed by science that a negative thought can not only make you ill, but a negative thought could also kill you. You can be scared to death in a real sense, okay? And why is that important? Because it turns out it's not just the positive thought of a placebo that's influential. The negative thought works the same way with the same power, but in the opposite direction. So basically, it's not placebo, nocebo. It comes down simply this: it's the power of thought. And a positive thought will move you in a healing direction, and a negative thought will move you into an illness direction. But before I get off that topic, I don't want people to go out there in the audience and go, oh, one of those positive thinking kind of guys. And it's like, it's more than just positive thinking. It's a commitment and an intention of positive thinking. It also really needs the support of your subconscious belief. Because if your subconscious belief is going, oh, that new age weirdo stuff, if that's what your subconscious is programmed to believe, and yet your conscious mind is the one that says, I will think positive thoughts, and I go back to the data. Only 5% of your life is coming from the conscious mind. So if you're only entertaining a positive thought with your conscious mind, you're only contributing 5% of that to your life. 95% of your life is still coming from the subconscious. And if the subconscious doesn't hold those beliefs, then you're actually fighting yourself and not likely to realize the expression of a positive thought. We also bought this, and it's not true, that there's somebody in the subconscious. Meaning, if my conscious finds my subconscious engaging in some behavior that's not supporting it, then my conscious is talking to myself, and my conscious is saying, Bruce, God, that was stupid. You could do better than that. And you're having this inner dialogue, and you're talking to yourself and being very upset about the fact that your behavior seems to be out of control. Who are you talking to? And I love this because the reality is we're thinking we're talking to ourselves, and that's going to fix something. And what is it going to fix? Well, the program's in that subconscious. And here's where the problem lies. Subconscious is a tape player. There's nobody in there. The same exact truth holds in this case. Get a tape player, put a cassette tape in it, push play, the program's running, and you don't like the programming, so here's what I want you to do. Go up and talk to the tape player. Go up and talk to it. Suggest that it change the program. Even tell it what you want it to play. Do all this, and then you realize the program still plays, it doesn't change, and then you get more upset with yourself. Why? Because you've asked this program to change, it's not changing yet. Then you get mad at yourself, you start yelling at yourself, and now you're berating yourself because you can't control the tape. Then that doesn't work, and then of course the last step, you have to bring God in because obviously you tried to change your life and it didn't work, so only God has to come in here now and change the tape. And the joke is, how much talking to a tape player does it take before the tape changes? And the answer is you can talk till you're blue in the face and it will not change. It's not that you can't change the tape, but you have to learn how to push the record button. And then you can record new programs in the subconscious. But our old belief system, like conventional psychology, let's go over and find out why my life is this way. Oh yeah, my mom did this to me, and my dad did this, and my friends did this, and now I make a whole list of all the reasons why my life is this way. I'm very clear. My conscious mind's got, oh my God, I could play that movie. I can see it. And the question is, now that you're aware, did it change the tape player? And the answer is no. And that's why people get so upset. They go through all of this psychology, counseling and stuff. They know all the reasons. They still have the same life. So the issue is, you want to make change? Then you have to learn how to engage the tape player in a record mode and not just talk to it. So as you understand the terms quantum physics and quantum mechanics, or Newtonian physics and Newtonian mechanics, what you see is that physics and mechanics are synonyms. So physics really means the mechanisms by which the universe operates. And the new physics, quantum physics, was something that I really wasn't into, nor were any of my colleagues in the medical school. We were all trained in Newtonian physics. And the difference between the two is very profound. Newtonian physics says the world that we live in, the universe we live in, is a machine made out of mechanical parts. If you want to understand how it works, take it apart, study the pieces, change the operation. That's the basis of medicine. We look at a human body, it's a machine made out of physical parts. When it's not working right, change the parts by buying chemicals and drugs. And that's the way that conventional medicine operates. When I started to read the quantum physics, I realized, oh my goodness, the whole foundation of the universe is not based on a mechanical, physical universe. It's based on the invisible energy called the field. So let's say if I hold a magnet right here in front of you, you can see the magnet, but what you can't see is the invisible magnetic field. And so what it says is, well, we are physical things in our world, like physical bodies. We're immersed in fields, electromagnetic fields, magnetic fields itself, all kinds of fields like telephone, cell phone fields, television fields, radio fields, whole ranges. What is the difference between the Newtonian physics and quantum physics is this. Newtonian physics focus on the particles. Quantum physics says, you want to understand why the particles take this shape? Then you have to understand the field. It's the field that controls biology. It's the invisible forces. There's a great quote by Albert Einstein, and it's simple. It goes, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. In other words, in the world of invisible things, fields, and particles, matter, it's the field that gives shape to the matter. And this is the basis of quantum physics. This becomes relevant. It says, okay, here's the physical particles of my body. Why are they in a healthy state, or why could they be in a sick state? That's the physical expression. And the answer is, well, to understand that, don't look at the body. You have to understand the invisible forces in the field. And it's fun, because if you think about it, when you were young, at some point you must have had like iron filings and sprinkled it around a magnet, and all of a sudden you saw the iron filings form that pattern of the magnetic field. Well, quantum physics would look at this pattern and try to explain how come all the iron filings fell in this pattern without recognizing that the field exists. In other words, can you explain why the iron filings have this shape if you don't recognize the magnetic field? And the answer is absolutely not. What's the nature of it? The body and its cells are like iron filings. Medicine is trying to understand the nature of the body by looking at the iron filings. And quantum physics says, if you don't understand that invisible field, you can't understand what's happening in the body. Everybody's mind is like a tuning fork, because actually you can read brain activity from outside your head with a new thing called magnetoencephalograph. Most people are familiar with electroencephalograph, put wires on your head and read your brain function.
Okay, yeah.
The new one, magnetoencephalograph, they put a probe out here, and they can read your brain function from outside. Well, it's a very important point. He says, well, if you're reading my brain function from outside, then what am I doing? I must be broadcasting my brain function. So all of us are like tuning forks. But if we're all out of tune, then there's a tendency for even a tuning fork that tries to stay in tune will be pushed out of tune by something we call entrainment. And the issue is, how can you survive in this world? And the answer is, you must essentially detach yourself from this field around you, not be taken in by the stories, not buy into the fear, not to buy into the threats on our existence, to start to recognize, look, we are creating these lives. If you buy other people's creation, then you manifest what they're creating. If you want what you want, then you have to not get engaged. And the more conscious you become, the less you are affected by the outside fields. And so this rising consciousness that we're seeing is the evolution of humanity to rise above the noise of the background and recognize you're the... In our mind, we start to realize that we're concerned, we're afraid, we don't have enough, I'm not safe, I'm not secure. And I say, oh, these thoughts, I was talking about the thoughts in your mind, go in and control your biology, your genetics, your physiology, and your health. And I go, yes, this is really true. I say, well, how can I tell you what your thoughts are, in a sense that, can I read your thoughts? And I say, yes, you know, I could put wires on your head, and it's called electroencephalograph, and I could read your brain activity. And I go, oh, great, I can see this brain activity. I want to tell you something that's profoundly important. We were programmed to believe that our thoughts are contained in our head. That if I have a thought, it's just for me, not for anybody else. It's inside, and it's working through me. And now I want to tell you about a new technology. It's not electroencephalograph. It's called magnetoencephalograph. I say, what's unique about that? I say, it reads your brain. I say, yeah, but so does EEG. I say, yeah, but EEG, you put the wires on the head, and you get the electrical activity conducted through the skin from the brain, and that's what I'm reading. And I say, what's different about MEG? The probe is out here. And I said, what does that mean? Your thoughts are not contained in your head. Your thoughts are broadcast to the field just like a radio broadcast. I said, well, what if I, as an individual, have a thought that says, let's have peace in the world? And I broadcast out there in the street and I say, let's have peace. And I look around, it's like, where's the peace? I don't see the peace. And here's what the relevance is. Each of us is broadcasting. If you get enough people to have the same thought, that broadcast is amplified. Each of us has a small power, but if you put 1,000 people with the same thought, 10,000, 100,000 people with the same thought, you are broadcasting a most powerful thought, not just in your body, but out in the field. I say your energy is in the field, the thought is in the field. And you go, well, what does that mean? And then I'll give you this most wonderful quote. I used it the other day in a lecture from Albert Einstein. And the quote is so important. Here's the quote. The field, so a definition, the field is the invisible energy. Right now you're in a field, there's cell phone broadcasts, television, radio broadcasts, all kinds of information coming across, but guess what? Each one of you is a broadcast in that field. The quote, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Particle is the material realm. So what was Einstein saying? It's the energy in the field that shapes the physical experience of our lives. And if enough of us collectively have an energy that's coherent and strong, and we broadcast the belief, we change the world. I just want you to recognize, as much as I wanted peace in the world, if not enough people are out there saying, let's have peace in the world, there is no peace. If I want to say, let's have a war, how can you have a war? You have to have enough people convinced that the war is going to benefit them, so that their broadcasts say, yes, let's have a war because I and my colleagues, we're all going to have a better result from that. And the reality is this. The only things that change on this planet collectively are when we collectively share thoughts. And yoga, when you're in your postures, when you're in your process, your mind is sharing a thought, not just in your head, but all around you. So the whole idea about this is we have to recognize we are collectively creating reality with our thoughts. And if we want to change reality, it can change instantly. The moment we become coherent, the moment we collectively are on the same platform of thinking. You get enough people to say peace, there will be peace instantly in this world. But we've been programmed by other people to give them the power to tell us what we need. And as Sadhviji has been telling us so importantly, what we need is not what they tell us, what we need is what we know. And I really hope that you understand this, because when you have your thoughts, recognize it's not contained in your head, your thoughts out in the field. And that thought, the field, is the sole governing agency of matter. And therefore, what this world is looking for at this moment is an evolution. It's not an evolution of our biology. Our biology is already evolved. It's an evolution of our consciousness. When we collectively as a population say enough is enough, it will end.